I'm delighted to share my research on what happens to the brain of a child who experiences prolonged neglect or emotional trauma. It is indeed a fascinating and important topic to delve into. When a child goes through prolonged neglect or emotional trauma, their brain undergoes significant changes at the neuronal level. Neurons are the building blocks of the brain, responsible for transmitting information through electrical and chemical signals. These incredible cells form intricate networks that allow us to think, learn, and experience the world around us. Now imagine a child who lacks consistent and nurturing care, or one who endures chronic emotional distress. In such circumstances, the brain's development can be negatively impacted. Let's take a closer look at the specifics. Firstly, prolonged neglect or emotional trauma can affect the architecture of the brain. The brain undergoes a critical period during early childhood when it is particularly sensitive to experiences and stimuli. This period is crucial for the proper formation of neuronal connections. However, in the absence of positive and supportive interactions, these connections may not develop optimally. This can lead to alterations in brain structure, particularly in regions involved in emotional regulation, memory, and stress response. For example, the hippocampus, a region linked to memory and learning, may be affected. Studies have shown that children who experience neglect or trauma may have a smaller hippocampus compared to their peers. This can have long-term consequences for memory and cognitive abilities. Secondly, prolonged neglect or emotional trauma can dysregulate the stress response system in the brain. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis, which controls our response to stress, can become overactivated or underactivated in children who have endured adverse experiences. This dysregulation can lead to difficulties in managing stress, resulting in heightened anxiety or depression. To illustrate, let's consider the amygdala, a region involved in processing emotions. In a child who has experienced neglect or trauma, the amygdala may become hyperactive, leading to an exaggerated fear response. This can manifest as constant feelings of anxiety or a heightened startle response. Furthermore, prolonged neglect or trauma can impact the development of social and emotional skills. Children who have not received consistent care and nurturing may struggle with forming healthy attachments, managing emotions, and empathizing with others. These difficulties can persist into adulthood and affect their relationships, mental well-being, and overall quality of life. In summary, prolonged neglect or emotional trauma can have profound effects on the brain of a child. The neuronal changes that occur can alter brain structure, disrupt stress regulation, and impair social and emotional development. The potential long-term damage includes difficulties with memory, heightened stress responses, anxiety, depression, and challenges in forming healthy relationships. It is important to note that every child's experience is unique, and the effects can vary. Nevertheless, understanding the impact of neglect and trauma on the developing brain is crucial in providing support and interventions to promote resilience and healing. Let's explore some of the common effects that are often observed when a child experiences prolonged neglect or emotional trauma. 1. Altered brain structure. One of the notable effects is the alteration of brain structure, particularly in regions involved in emotional regulation, memory, and stress response. For example, the hippocampus, which plays a crucial role in memory and learning, may be impacted, leading to difficulties in these cognitive functions. 2. Dysregulated stress response. Prolonged neglect or emotional trauma can dysregulate the stress response system in the brain. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis, responsible for managing our response to stress, may become overactive or underactive. This can result in difficulties in managing stress, leading to heightened anxiety or depression. 3. Hyperactive amygdala. The amygdala, a region involved in processing emotions, may become hyperactive in children who have experienced neglect or trauma. This can manifest as an exaggerated fear response, constant feelings of anxiety, or an increased startle response. 4. Impaired social and emotional skills. Children who have experienced neglect or trauma may struggle with developing healthy social and emotional skills. Difficulties in forming secure attachments, managing emotions, and empathizing with others are common. These challenges can persist into adulthood and impact relationships and overall well-being. 5. Cognitive deficits. Prolonged neglect or trauma can result in cognitive deficits, particularly in areas such as attention, executive functioning, and problem solving. These difficulties can affect academic performance and overall cognitive development. 6. Emotional and behavioural issues. Children who have experienced neglect or trauma may exhibit emotional and behavioural issues. These can include heightened aggression, impulsivity, withdrawal, or self-destructive behaviours. Difficulties in emotional regulation and self-control are also common. 7. Higher risk of mental health disorders. Children who have experienced prolonged neglect or trauma are at a higher risk of developing mental health disorders later in life. Conditions such as anxiety disorders, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder may be more prevalent. It is important to note that these effects can vary from child to child, depending on various factors such as the severity and duration of the neglect or trauma, individual resilience, and the presence of supportive relationships. Early intervention and therapeutic support can play a crucial role in mitigating these effects and promoting resilience and healing.